Say Shana, Africa, say it louder. Say Shana. Salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
United we stand, divided we fall. All we need is freedom. All we need is freedom. Free Africans free. Free Africans free.
Be free, be free, free from slavery. Free, be free, be free, free from slavery. Free, free yourself from mental slavery. Free, free yourself from mental slavery. Free, free yourself from mental slavery. Free, be free, be free, free from slavery. Be free, be free, free from slavery. Yeah.
We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war.
Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, African one. If you wanna be free, the most simplest one in the world. Get yourself developed with the reggae music coming straight to you from the one of the most peaceful man. So many lying down on the streets, whatever them we are dancing at the ends. Get yourself the most free time. I preach about freedom. Preach about freedom.
We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war. We're here to speak the word. We're here to stop the war.
Better look on the street and say, listen, youth. Stop violence, they say, listen. You have to listen and be a man. The music we are doing is not a music for fun. We are preaching, hear it loud and clear. Day, night, and day, no slipping it out. Better preach, let the people hear. Better preach, let the blind feel. The sound of freedom and love. The sound of freedom and love. The sound of freedom and love. The sound of African one love. In the production. Ethiopia. Salam alaikum. Morocco. Salam alaikum. Libya. Salam alaikum. Tunisia. Salam alaikum. Nigeria. Salam alaikum. Niger. Salam alaikum. South Sudan. Salam alaikum. Sudan. Salam alaikum. South Africa. Salam alaikum. African wonder. Salam alaikum. African wonder. Salam alaikum. Let's unite and be free. Salam alaikum. United we stand. Salam divided we fall. Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever you tune in today. This is Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. It's live. It is Sunday, May 14, 2023. And also, I would like to say happy Mother's Days here in the United States and around the world. Tonight, our guest in the SPLM SPLA at its 40th success and failure. Our guest is Dr. Peter Berajak, who will be speaking here with us and walk us through. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Peter Biar to the studio, and we can start our discussion today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Viewers of Concerned Citizens of South Sudan, please go ahead and share our live broadcast and like it. Also, you can share it on the YouTube and Clubhouse and Facebook, and you can click on subscribe button so you can get every new video. With that, I would like to welcome my guest on the studio, Dr. Peter Berajak. Welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Brother Jonkur. Thank you for inviting me for this show. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be here this afternoon with you. It's a great topic for us to talk on a great day. It's Mother's Day. So I like to say happy mothers to all the mothers around the world. Without you all, we wouldn't be here. And you have done a great job. And you continue to carry heavy burdens on our behalf and on behalf of all the children around the world. So happy Mother's Day to you. And I also want to begin wishing South Sudanese a happy May 16, happy early May 16 celebration. I know it is no longer celebrated as much as we used to celebrate it back in the days. But you all remember the importance of this day and the importance of the reflection that we all go through when a day like this occurs. So I want to wish each and every one of you, I don't know how you plan to celebrate it, but anyone who has participated in this struggle, and this is many people, millions and millions of South Sudanese, because the struggle came in its own different form. There are those who fought in the battlefields. There are those who went on the streets. There were those who campaigned, those who were outside, those who were inside. So all of these people, they struggled in their own ways. And May 16 was always that day in which we reflected on what it is that we are doing. What are we doing as a people? So I know this anniversary is the 40th anniversary. It's a very important anniversary. So I want to wish each and every one of you a happy May 16. It may be a time of celebration and reflection with you and your close family members. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter Biar, for coming to Concerned Citizens of South Sudan to talk to the people of South Sudan in these very important days. As you said, we are ahead of time here. We are doing it two days before the May 16. As you can see on the screen here, we are discussing the SPLM, SPLA at 40th success and failure. You, the guest on this program, Dr. Peter Biar, I want you to help our viewers. What are the success and failure of the SPLA, SPLM for the 40 years that we have spent so far? I want to give you the podium. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Jonker. I think the question you asked is very broad. It's very broad, and because it is very broad, we are not going to tackle it all at once. We are going to take it on different small pieces so that it is able for us to then examine it very critically. The first thing I would like to say is, let's first reflect on what was the situation that the SPLM, SPLA was created to address. What was it that the SPLM wanted to do? That is very important, because it is from there that we can analyze what has been the success and what has been the failures. You know very well when the SPLM came about, especially May 16, 1983, this was at a time when South Sudan was going through a lot of challenges. Sudan as a country had existed since 1956.
Yes.
It had been created on a very shaky foundation. a foundation in which the power was singularly handed to a very narrow clique of individuals from the north. These individuals, they then now interpret what is supposed to be the national destiny. And the kind of country they created was a country in the quest to build a homogeneous society. They end up imposing their own worldview, society that is supposed to be Islamic and Arabic. And Arab culture and the religion of Islam became the tools that were used in their own thinking as tools for nation building. But what happened was basically a country that was formed on a sectarian basis, a country that denies the existence, the very existence of so many people of Sudan, so many diverse communities, so many different tribes, so much rich history and rich cultures. And the way that Sudan operated was a Sudan that benefited only very, very, very small circles. All the resources from different parts of Sudan were taken and brought to the center. This is where the investments happen, virtually basically around Khartoum. This is where agriculture was developed, the Al Jazeera scheme. This is where like the urban planning, water, electricity,
Yes.
all of these things were concentrated, medical facilities, education, schools. School was one of the main challenges. If you take, for example, in the case of the South, my father, he tell us a story of how when he first went to school. And in the whole of the Bor district, this is the Bor district, class 1, only 40 students were selected. Only 40 students. 40 students out of potentially thousands and thousands that are hungry for education. Only 40 were given a chance. But in the area, virtually any child that was willing to go to school and a child that was of school-going age was given the opportunity to go to school. This is just an example of how much the logic of the Sudan that was created by the North operated. Now, in terms of political participation, it was virtually difficult, or if not outrightly impossible, for Southerners, especially those who are African or Black and Christian, to be in the center of power in Sudan. You may be there just as a token of diversity, but not really able to shape policy and decision making in any significant way, because you do not have the right ethnicity and you do not have the right religion. And because of that, as you know very well, since the creation of Sudan, only people from the north, from a very small area, have always governed the country. No one else from anywhere, whether from the east, from the west, from the south, definitely not the south or far north, have ever got any close to that. In fact, we, the south, are the one that have got closer several times. When you see that, that is one of the logic. And then within this country, there was a particular marginalization and sort of like suppression that was really targeted at us in the South. And you find this especially with how the central state pursue development project in the South. When the oil was discovered in Bentiu, it was announced that the oil was discovered certain kilometers south of Khartoum. Instead of saying that there is oil that is discovered in southern Sudan near Bentiu, it was announced that way. And a new state, unity state, was created. And this really was a major concern. So issue of exploitation of the resources of South Sudan, but exploitation at which those resources will not benefit the people. They will benefit a clique, not really the people of South Sudan. And it was also around the same time that Jonglei Canal came as an issue, because the northern Sudanese want to take the water to the Egypt.
Mm.
And this was going to benefit Egypt and not benefit the South Sudanese people. So people were very upset because the Sudan that was defined was a very narrow Sudan.
Yes.
It was not a Sudan that was supposed to be inclusive. It was not a Sudan that was supposed to embody all the diversity that was present within Sudan. It was certainly not a Sudan in which any Sudanese citizen would have a chance to exercise their talents for the benefit of the nation and be given a fair chance. That is not the Sudan. The Sudan that was created was defined really by regionalism. Regionalism in terms of individual from the northern part, especially around Khartoum, defining power as belonging to them. And then second to it was ethnicity, right? The Arab identity was a critical issue. And then the third element of it was religion. You know, so SPLM now was opposed to this. And what the SPLM did was to respond to it with the vision of New Sudan, right? That was the ultimate political vision. It was to create now, instead of a Sudan that is seen as belonging to Arab Islamic minority, it was a Sudan that was to be inclusive, that belonged to everybody. A Sudan where diversity could coexist, where it could be a melting pot of different religions, of different ethnicities, different ideas, where people could commingle, where the whole of Africa really synchronize and come into one. The Arab North and the African, sub-Saharan African coming together in Sudan to form a one big melting pot of diversity. So the vision of Sudan was that. Now, the tool that was chosen was armed struggle. Armed struggle so that the old Sudan can be dismantled, not just only in a physical sense, but ideologically, so that that kind of thinking in which ethnicity, regionalism are prized as more important, that Sudan is dismantled. And a new Sudan that is inclusive, where we embrace equality, we embrace meritocracy, we embrace justice, that new Sudan is then created. Now, the SPLM did a great job in terms of the vision that it brought about, the vision of New Sudan. This was an amazing response because it was truly addressing the problem of Sudan as a whole. Because if you see what is happening in Khartoum now, this is basically what Garang and what the SPLM was trying to address. It was to ensure that Sudan is transformed so that things like what is happening now do not happen, right? So the vision was the right vision. Now, in terms of how it was now implemented, you know that within the South, there was from the very beginning a misunderstanding of this vision. And from the very beginning, there was contestation because there were many that wanted like a Southern Sudanese nationalism, right? And at the time, the two conflicted really because the question was, if you want unity of Sudan, then obviously it's going to be difficult to say it simultaneously that you want an independent Southern Sudan. And Southern extremists saw this as a way to attack Garang from the right, you know, that he was not fighting for the right kind of things. But Garang's solution, not only was it right for the Sudan as a whole, but also for the politics of the region and the politics of African Union, politics of secession, and the change of colonial borders. And by the way, it's a very interesting angle to even see now the context of what is happening in Ukraine with how Garang was formulating his comprehensive address to this problem. So ultimately, what I found here, my brother Jonkur, we end up fighting ourselves because we didn't really understand the depth of what Garang was proposing, because it truly encompassed both those who wanted to fight for independent South as well as those who want to transform Sudan. But what was so powerful about the vision of New Sudan is not that it has to be applied in a particular geography or a particular location. The vision of New Sudan can also be applied in South Sudan.
Correct.
It doesn't require the existence of the whole Sudan. is a way of thinking. So I think in that regard, you can say SPLM did really a great job in terms of coming up with like a way of thinking to address the problem. Second, the way the war was fought, it was fought with united heart. People were mobilized. Men went from the day the battle was started in Bor, Mia Arba, Mia Kamsa, and then they brought on board everyone else, Jamuz, Tiger Timsa, Korium, Mormor, and all the other units, Zalzal, Intifada, all Red Army, all those units of the SPLA, they all joined and they all came in large numbers. So in terms of the armed struggle itself, yes, a lot of people end up dying, but the SPLM in the end was a force to reckon with on the ground. Military strategy was well executed. Yes, there were some blunders that were made here and there, but that is natural in any war. Some mistakes were made. There has been a lot of that has been raised in terms of internal governance of the SPLM. That has also been an issue. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. But I think where the fundamental problem remained was the transformation, because what SPLM was starting was a military power.
Yes.
What it needed to accomplish the vision of New Sudan was political power. And the idea now was, once you use the military power to take the political power, then you use the political power now to transform the society, to bring about that vision of New Sudan that you were talking about, so that now you empower your people, you bring development, you bring things that change their welfare. That is the part where the SPLM has been unable to make any real progress. And since 2005, and even more so after the independence of South Sudan 2011, you even wonder if the SPLM still believe in the transformation of South Sudan in terms of building a prosperous nation in which the people of South Sudan can feel they own, that is their own, they can build their future in it. That part has been a major challenge. And I think that is the part where I believe that the debate has stalled, because what has happened now, the movement has been turned into a movement of psychopathy, and is basically replicating the same problem that was in the Sudan, the problem of sectarianism, the problem of regionalism, the problem of ethnicity. These problems now that the SPLM had gone to war to oppose, they have come back, right? They have come back and they have taken over the SPLM. So SPLM now, if you see, now at 40 years, if you say the first 25 years of the SPLM, you find a different SPLM than the SPLM of the last 15 years, And I think this is where the challenge is. And I feel like today there is no real debate. Even when you see people moving around and they're dancing, they're welcoming SPLM leaders, they're launching things. There is no real debate about where the party is going, where the movement is going. There is no soul searching anymore to say, where are we from the things that we promised and where we are today? And it's understandable that things have not turned out right. But how do you turn things around? How do you stop the failure and you embark on the path of success? That discussion has been extremely missing in the SPLM, and is a discussion that is very much needed.
Well, Dr. Peter Biar, thank you so much for answering that question and elaborating more and giving us the background of the SPLM at 40 years. So let me go ahead and play clips here because you talk about the objectives, whether within the big Sudan or in South Sudan as a country. Let me play a clip from our late hero, Dr. John Garang Dimabior, the founding father of this nation. And I want you to weigh in on that. Sorry.
A new phase of transforming the guns and the bullets, that is military power, transforming military power into political power, and using the political power to achieve socio-economic development rapidly. Because because there is no meaning of revolution unless it makes our people happy, unless the masses of our people, as a result, become prosperous. They go ahead, they advance, they get shelter, they get food, they get clean drinking water, they get education, they get health services. Unless we provide this to our people, unless the revolution provides this to our people, then the people would prefer a government of the NIF that provides salt to a government of the SPLA that does not provide salt. This is simple arithmetic. If the SPLA cannot deliver anything, and we just shout revolution, and the cattle of the people are not vaccinated, their children are not vaccinated, there is nothing to eat. There are no basic necessities of life. Mafi gumaish soup, mafi ibra, mafi mus. The barest minimum of things are not available. Then the people will drive us into the sea. Even though there is no sea here, they will find a sea to drive us. Because we have no other choice. See,
Let's stop there. Dr. Peter Biar, has the SPLM party transformed South Sudan from military power to political and economic power? Did they understand the leader of the SPLM party? The simplistic arithmetic that Dr. Jongarang has talked about. Please.
No, absolutely. This is the point that I was making earlier, and I think Dr. John Grang put it even more eloquently. I don't think anyone can put it better than the way that he put it. That is the whole essence of revolution. The revolution was done violently because it could not be done in a nonviolent way because of the extreme way in which Sudanese, the Arab, were treating us. You know very well about what happened, the suppression, the execution of people, the torturing, all of that. So ultimately, the only solution that had to be deployed to address this problem was armed struggle. But armed struggle was not the objective. The armed struggle was only a tool so that you can have political power, and then you use the political power to bring about prosperity. Because our problem with the North was not just our people were not in the government, right? But having our people, Dinkas, Nuer, in the government without giving us anything does not do any good for us either. So what we really wanted was a transformation, services, so that we can benefit, so that we can build a civilized nation, a civilized and prosperous nation. That was the objective. And in the SPLM, you see what has happened now. We have stuck only at military power. Even now, what you see, I was seeing in the news today that Johnson Olony has now returned to Juba. This is a good news, obviously, because we don't want more bloodshed to continue. But this has become the story of South Sudan. This is the story of Juba. We are stuck at the level of military power. Somebody will rebel. There will be talks. There will be integration. The person rebel again. There is shooting. There is integration. And again, like right now, the government we have in Juba is a government of warlords. So we have a problem of statesmen. We have warlords and warlords that pretend to be statesmen. Yeah. But what Garang is talking in that clip is we need to transform that military power, because that military side is only a tool to deal with the old Sudan. It's not really a tool on how we are going to bring about the new Sudan. Because you will never bring about the new Sudan through violence. You will never bring about a social and political change or social economic transformation into the country through military power. It has to be brought through political power and through provision of services and education, healthcare, employment, and those services to the people. And the SPLM, as it is now today, if you look at where we are in South Sudan, we're still stuck in terms of, even if you see now the power in Juba, is choosing to rely on the military rather than to build a politically strong party so that it can rely on the consent of the people and so that it can rely on promises that it and the services that it provide for the people. That is not the case. And I think this is definitely at conflict with what Garang has said there. So the only way forward, really, if the SPLM want to remain as relevant, and this is the part of the thing that we have to come to.
Yes.
If the SPLM is going to remain relevant, then it cannot give people things that are no longer in need, right? If you attend many SPLM rallies, or if you listen to any of the old SPLM leaders, they will tell you great stories of what happened in the 80s, what happened in 1990s. All of those are great stories. But if you are a South Sudanese person who's dealing with problems in 2023, you are worried about how you're going to survive, how you're going to make ends meet. And when you look to your leaders, you want to hear what are going to be the solutions to the problem that you face, the problem with you and your kids are going to face today and in every other day. You don't want to be told of the battles that were fought in 1985, because it's great if you are fat, if your stomach is full and your kids have eaten, then no problem. You can listen to even the stories from 500 years ago. But if you are hungry, you are concerned about what is going to be done now, what is going to be solution now, and that one is not there because SPLM has chosen to just settle at taking power, right, through the military. So even that power, to transform it into a real political power that has program, that have a vision, because you cannot talk about political power without programs, without vision, because that's what make it political, right? Political here is an element of politics, is embedded within the idea of consent. Correct. That the people discuss, and through discussion and reasoning, they build consensus and they agree on certain political ideals to be pursued, right? It doesn't rely on coercion alone. You cannot build political power through force. Force can be an important element sometimes, but it is not the only necessary element. And if you are going to build political power in terms of real political power, then you need to be able to listen to the people and see what the people actually want. And what the people want are jobs, are healthcare. There is no reason why we are poor, we are in destitution, and we have been in this country for more than 12 years. When the SPLM is the one that is in power the whole time, right? Even if you say, okay, SPLM has fragmented now to all these factions. At the end of the day, if you add them up, they're still all SPLM. It's still SPLM government. And this is what they were fighting for. This is what John Grant, whom all of us revere, as founding father of the Republic, this is what he has been saying. So why is it that people are not listening to him? Why are people not listening to him? And you see, Jonkur, when we come to speak here, there is sometimes misunderstanding. It's as if we are coming here to come and criticize and attack any individuals or sets of individuals, and that is not the case. We are just as patriotic citizens. We are citizens that are concerned about the welfare of the country. And when we come to talk here, it's not that we are criticizing individuals. It's also not because we don't see what individuals have done and what they have contributed in the collective journey we are on. All of us, many SPLM leaders, especially the generation that fought the war, they did a terrific job, and nothing can ever take that job away. And even when we come and disagree and criticize each other on what is being done today, it's not because we don't value what has been done. It's because we want to build on what has been done. We don't want to destroy. Because what the SPLM has done was to bring all these tribes of South Sudan, who were all upset in their own ways and who were being divided. Because if you look, what was happening in Eritrea, you have Kokora, you have all these things. These were the things that Jalaba was using, regionalism, to say, these people are Equatoria. Nas Equatoria, you go to Equatoria. Nas Bargazal, Amshile Wow. Go to Wow, you stay in Wow. Upper Nile, you go to Upper Nile, right? And they're using that regional division to divide people. Now, when the war started up, the Jalaba came in and tried to divide South Sudanese, saying, "Well, they are Kumambata Dinka. This is a Dinka government," and mobilizing other tribes of South Sudanese against it, right? So, if we are today a republic and we are an independent country, and we are still stuck with the same problems, like if you see now, it's the same tools that are being used, right? When people go now to lobby for any position in the government, they will go and make all kinds of ridiculous arguments. And among those arguments, they will say, "Walai Nina Nasbita Kide, we are not represented and we have not been given anything for a very long time. So we as people from this area, we should be given. And we as this tribe, we don't have any minister, or we have not had any minister for the last 5 years or whatever." These are the arguments that are going to be made. And it's no longer philosophical. It's no longer based on what is the ideal that the SPLM as a movement is trying to achieve. And when you see, this is what the SPLM was really targeting. This is what the SPLM was trying to change. This is the struggle that the SPLM was trying to accomplish.
Well, thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. What it take? We have been in mess for a very long time. And when we sing the national anthem, we have a keyword: justice, liberty, prosperity. Even Dr. John Garang have spoken about this. We need prosperous nation, providing conducive environment, because if the environment is not conducive, and then the citizens are not going to be productive, what it take for them, the leaders of SPLA, who are still alive, who are in charge, to make it conducive environment for the citizen? Because I have seen some people, they come up with weird ideas. They're saying that, well, government cannot provide everything to the citizen. That's correct. You cannot feed everybody. But what it take for them to provide conducive environment, Dr. Peter Biar?
This is quite a challenge. Sometimes, by the way, Brother Jonkor, I sympathize with them, because I try to put myself in their shoes sometimes. Because, yes, I do get frustrated, just like you, about why we have fought for so long to create our own country. We know very well what should be done. Like what John Garang just said in that video, there is another document called the SPLM framework for transition from war to peace, economic framework.
Yes.
A beautiful document. And it was done in 2004. And it built on the initiatives that were already there. Then if you read the JAM, the Joint Assessment Mission, this was one of the things that was done ahead of CPA, was part of the overall CPA, to really look at the condition of underdevelopment in the South and see what the government can do to transform the socioeconomic situation of the people of South Sudan. It was done, SPLM, the government of Sudan, of Omar al-Bashir, and with the UN and the World Bank providing the technical support. It's another very important document. So there are a lot of documents like this. The same thing, documents that have been developed since independence. You have the Vision 2040, in which I was privileged to contribute to. You have the National Security Strategy. You have the South Sudan Development Plan. You have the Growth Strategy. All of these strategies, they are there. And it's the same vision that is included in it. And the problem is, why is it that there is no implementation that is taking place? And I feel like part of the challenge where we are in, SPLM as an organization, we talk a lot about its successes. And we have to give it to them. They are among the most successful political military insurgency in Africa, because they managed to accomplish what very few ever accomplish, and that is to create a new country. That is not a simple thing. It's the Tamil Tigers, they fought for years.
But that's not what. But that's
I know that. I'm coming to that point. But,
okay.
So it's an accomplishment. You give them that.
Yes.
But I agree. But exactly as you were anticipating, that is not the only accomplishment. It's a great privilege to be able to bring about the country. But what is even better is to be able to set the moral tone of the country. Even George Washington in this country, when the U.S. became independent, at the time they had slavery, and he had slaves. What did George Washington do? Because they want to create a new nation that was birthed in freedom. He freed his slaves, right? So although others did not want to, because it was legal, you could hold your slaves. You didn't have to, and in fact, slavery didn't end until the Civil War.
Correct.
But George Washington freed his slave. 60-something years before the slavery was outlawed in America. Why? Because you want to set an example as a leader. When he stepped down from power, George Washington could have become a king.
Yes, they asked him actually.
He could have become a king, but he decided because he knew what they were fighting for when they were resisting the British. So he decided to step down after 2 terms on his own. Nobody tried to push him out, on his own. And it was not like there was no, from the very minute that he sat in the seat, it's not like there was no people that were pushing him out. There were people also trying to push him out. There were a bunch of rebellions, like the Shea rebellions. But George Washington was a leader, and he wanted to set a moral example for his people. And I feel like every single one of us, Jonkur, because sometimes when we get into these debates, it becomes very acrimonious very quickly, and you begin to see your opponent as if they're the evil or the incarnation of evil. But we have to remember that there is goodness in every single person. And even the people that we oppose, that we believe that could be doing something to improve South Sudan, and because of their inaction are jeopardizing the future of South Sudan, they also have a great deal of goodness in them, right? And each person is capable of greatness. They are capable of being like George Washington. Our president in South Sudan is capable of the same level of greatness like George Washington. All it takes is courage and just deciding you are going to do the right thing. I feel like in the case of South Sudan, when we were in the bush, one of the problems that the SPLM always had was the problem of internal democracy. There was never a culture of internal democracy from the very beginning in 83. This is why every time there were always these crises within the movement. Initially from the very beginning, with those of Gaitud and Akwad Atem, and then later on, you have people like those of Majergai, Joseph Duo, that were arrested. Later on, you had Kwanyin, Carbino Kwanyin being thrown into jail. Those are Rongathon, and a bunch of other people, Bola Yualnom, so many people that basically many of them end up dying inside the prison. And the thing continued even after the split of 91 with Riyak. That lack of internal democracy continued. And it was one of the things that almost led to the crisis of 2004, and after that, the crisis was averted, because by then, it was very clear that Garang had matured into a real statesman. It was no longer about taking things to the extreme. It was never about pettiness or being vindictive, because, you can always be vindictive as a private individual. But to bring a nation together, it requires an understanding heart, accommodating heart. You have to know that others also have a role to play. And although this was not the case in the 80s, there was a lot of people that were killed within the movement. That was there's no doubt about it. But after 2004, there was a change of that. So, yes, when we criticize the SPLM of today, we are not saying they invented the problem. The problem was always there. The problem of lack of democracy within the SPLM, it was always there. And what is so fascinating is to have, for example, our chairman, Comrade Salva Kiir, the president of South Sudan. In 2004, he was, if you listen to everything that he was saying then,
Mm.
you know, it may even remind you of Peter Biar. Huh? He's talking about corruption within the party, within the SPLM. What kind of government are we going to build if we allow this corruption to take over?
Mm.
You know, talking about lack of accountability.
I have all the clips.
Party, you know, he's talking about, you know, lack of institutionalization of the movement. You know, where is the party? Is it in the briefcase of Dr. John, or there is a party? He's the deputy, and he feel like when the chairman travels, he has no idea. There's not even a communication going on between them. How do you run an organization like that? You know. But the interesting thing is that was 2004, and then you fast forward to 2023, and it's the same exact problem, right? So there is institutional problem in here. The same thing with Riek Machar. Like, I know sometimes we see Riek and we say he has always been power hungry. Okay, no doubt. There is that element of ambition. People are ambitious. But if you look back with the situation that we were going through in 1980s, okay, I just pointed out so many people that have been killed, illegally, by the way. And, you know, there are crazy stories. When I was doing my PhD and I spoke to some of these generals, you know, there are some crazy stories, especially if you touch on some of the activities that were done early on in the 80s. Some of these were crazy. And there was also what Adwog Nyaba called anti-intellectualism in the SPLM. You read Adwog Nyaba book, you know, you go through like basically people making sure that those with capacity are not welcome, you know, and it built a movement in which there was no questioning of ideas. You just receive from Dr. John, but there was no debate back and forth. So if you see, yes, it was very unfortunate that the 91 happened and that we, the people of South Sudan, ended up killing each other. This was terrible. It really set us back. We almost lost the war because of that. There is no doubt about it. And if I were Riek, definitely there is no way I would have done it in that same way, because doing it through violence end up killing our people. And even when we talk about the 2 million that have been killed, most of these 2 million is really us ourselves that kill ourselves as South Sudanese people, right? But you cannot say Riek and everyone that followed him in 1991, they were just power hungry, you know? Because if you say that, then you would say that those who supported Salva Kiir in 2004, and even Salva Kiir himself in 2004, he was also power hungry. Because what was he talking about? It was the same problem that Riek raised in 1991. The only difference is Salva Kiir chose a nonviolent strategy. Instead of like killing his own people, he decided to talk, to use his voice, to speak, so that the problem within the SPLM would.
But if Dr. John Garang did not come to that meeting, it would have turned to a violence as well.
Exactly. Now, it required Garang also to be comfortable, to sit down and to listen to others criticizing him. You know, that is a maturity of leadership. And the funny thing is that has now become missing in South Sudan, right? And what is funny is the person who was the leader was the one that was criticizing the other for appearing like a dictator, and the other one listened, and then they talk. You know, Salva talked, Garang also talked. Everybody talked, and then everybody left. Now, what was wrong there? There was nothing wrong. In fact, that was the example that we were supposed to take going forward. So that if anyone has a problem, we talk. If you have a vision, you talk. If you have a idea or a way in which the program can be done, you talk, so that we benefit from your ideas, you know, so that we see what the problem is. Where we are today in the party, in the SPLM, you know, I think we need to be very honest among ourselves. We have got our nation. 40 years. This is the real achievement. You know, there is no any other achievement you can talk about on top of this. Yes, there has been small development. We are not saying that nothing has been done in Juba, you know, or across South Sudan. A little bit has been done. You know, the roads that are being done now, that is a great improvement. You know, if we had started doing them in 2005, we would be somewhere now. You know, but at the end of the day, when you reflect on what the generation, these leaders who have fought the war, what has been the major outcome? It would be the creation of the Republic of South Sudan. That would be the major outcome. I don't really believe that they have enough time and enough expertise and enough resources to be able to add development on as one of the accomplishments. What they can do is to lay the foundation as they have laid it, but then initiate a debate so that within the SPLM there is a real debate. People don't just go and you sing songs about 1980, songs that are meaningless. I say songs that are meaningless because there are very meaningful songs of the SPLA. One of the songs is the one of Musajak. Is a very important song. The Shabab Ya Shabab Dunia, Ya Sawar Teferik. Yeah, that song is very meaningful. But what does it say? Yeah, one of the verse, right?
Yes.
There is a verse there, verse 3. Very important verse. It says, Lola Kalfiyat al Mustamir Elegeli al Burjuazia la Kimbi Beladi Fakif Akun Akshin وبلدي جزير ولا مطار وكمان نارني لازم يشوف من جنوب إلى شمال بلادي يا شباب الدنيا. You see,
Indeed, yeah.
there was a problem. How is it that you are thirsty in South Sudan, you cannot drink water?
And you have Nile.
You have Nile, you have rain. It's because you had a clique of individual in Sudan that hijacked the government. That hijack the systems that were supposed for improvement of the whole has been hijacked by the few, and those few were only using it for their benefit. It is where we are today. The few have hijacked the SPLM. They have hijacked the tools of the state. And then the majority, instead of doing the example of 2004, Garang had to be confronted. Salva had to confront Garang. But in those who can do that are those like Kwal Manyang, Awen Akut, Wani Iga, all these generals who were there with him. You see in those videos where John Garang is talking, those guys that he's talking to, where are they? Where are their voices? Now, when some of us come and talk here, they say, why are you talking? They are our children. You should not be talking when we are here. Okay, you are there, but what are you saying? What are you saying beside Oye every single day? I also say Oye, but I want more than Oye. And my generation want more than Oye. If you see now,
you cannot shout revolution without doing anything. That's what Dr. John Garang have said. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now we say SPLA and no clean water, no hospital, and no all this thing. It's meaningless, as he put it.
And the sad part, my brother, is that they've forgotten about their dead comrades. It's what I don't. Sometimes I don't know their comrades. You see, in my family, we are blessed. We have a lot of. We are blessed with our numbers. My grandfather, alhamdulillah, had a lot of boys. In the Tahrir, we lost, more than 12. These are brothers to my father. More than 12 died. Many of them had children. Some of them had several wives. So now their kids, they have grown up, their wives. So imagine, this is within my family. What about other families? Your family, Jonkur, family of anyone else? Because this war touched everyone. It doesn't matter. People try to say sometimes this other tribe, they did not do. No. Everybody was touched by this war in a very personal way, in a painful way. But imagine now, those who are leaders today, God spared them. It's not that they were better. It's just that God wanted to use them for his purpose. So he spared them, so that they can continue the struggle. But they were not better than others. They were not better than John Garang. They were not better than Carbino Kwanyin Bol. They were not better than William Nguyen. They were not better than Nyachagag Nyachuluk. And so many, many, many heroes who sacrificed their lives. But now, where are the children of their comrades? It's as they forgot completely about them. And when I was talking about in Juba about generational exit, all of them, they went crazy and they were all attacking me. But what they did not understand, generational exit was a package. It was a generational exit package. Right? If you want the package, you take it. You don't have to take it if you don't want the package. But what was going to be this package? We wanted massive construction of houses, 50,000 homes in each of the 10 states. And in Juba, we built 100,000 homes. Okay? Now, these homes, when they're ready, these are 3 to 5 bedroom homes, cheap. Some of these we costed out. You can build them not with a lot of money, by the way. And you bring these companies, you do it, and you do urban planning. You put schools, so after how many houses you need a school, you need a clinic. You build internal roads.
Yes.
Bring the electricity. All of the through the solar, by the way. So through the solar, so it's already renewable energy. You are not going to be emitting any CO2 into the atmosphere. Okay, but the idea was also the widows and the orphans, so that you put them up, so that you give them housing, because imagine their fathers died, so that those who are alive now, who are benefiting from the country, could live. Is the least that can be done. Is the least that they deserve. And there is no reason not to do it. There is no excuse, because these were your own comrades. I believe even some of these people, when they were dying, some people maybe made promises to them that I will look after your children. I will look after your wives. How are you going to do that? It's not to give this poor old woman alif jene every once in a while.
No.
It was so to empower her. Empower her so that she knows that her husband died for something that is meaningful.
Correct.
Something that is beautiful. So you see, independence South Sudan is our inheritance, is what God has rewarded the people of South Sudan for the blood that was spilled. It's not for a few individuals to then hijack the resources and do what Jalaba was doing. The oil, Jalaba want to sell it so that they can go and build Khartoum. Now we are selling everything to come and do Juba. People are being displaced, right? And you see that the system that we are starting now in Juba, we are bringing again tribalism and regionalism into it. Sometimes even with us, now you and me, Junkur, we are Dinka.
Correct.
And a Dinka min Bor, you are Dinka min Awil. Okay? But then now, even when with the current regime, they will start saying, "Well, de Barghazal, de Bor, Barghazal." It's the same thing that the Khartoum was using. It's basically strategies to divide people so that they don't unite. Otherwise, me today, I can leave from, like all the Dinka, we know this. I can leave today from Bor, go to Madinga Will, go and get married there and live there, and I become a Will.
Correct.
In fact, this is actually, from what I hear, I'm not sure. This is what happened with our president, Salva Kiir. Apparently, his father came from a Will, and then he went and settled in a one. Now people in a one don't say
particularly Marial Bai.
Marial Bai. Okay. Now people in a one don't say Demonia Will. No. They embrace him, because it doesn't matter. It should never matter. It doesn't matter. So the thing is, we really need to change our mindset, and we cannot allow the same problems that we have seen over and over again to overcome us, because SPLM is our inheritance. It's what the people of South Sudan has bestowed to us. It has cost millions of lives. We have shed so much blood, so much sweat, so much tears, and we need to build on it. Because if we destroy it, and then we have to start again from a zero foundation, then we would have destroyed a beautiful idea. And it's one of the reasons why I'm always opposed to violence, because we cannot destroy that, because we are building South Sudan. That is the South Sudanese nation. Everything that we are doing, we are adding on to it. Those of Garang have added their part. the current leadership, those of Salva Kiir, are adding their part. But we also have a role to play. We cannot be a bystanders or be reduced to psychopaths. Right now in Juba, apparently the only way to be at peace in Juba is to be a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
How can we build a country if we all shield the intelligence that God gave us so that we can improve our surrounding? After all the knowledge we have is not our own doing. We did not give ourselves this knowledge. It's God that gave it to us. Why did God give it to us? He gave it to us so that his will can be done on earth. And when we hide that intelligence, we are hiding the virtue of God. It's like taking a lamb and putting it under the bed.
Yes.
We are supposed to put it on a table so that it can shine all over the whole house. And each one of us have that light within them. But what has happened now in South Sudan is that we hide that light. And when we see it shining somewhere, when someone is shining that light, then we all scramble, go and put it out.
Turn it off.
And then we use that now as a way of driving up our psychopathy. That look at that light, it's too bright. Why is it shining? It's taking your light out. And our leaders, because they are no longer true to what they said. I hear that some of these people, they get nightmares sometimes. And they should. I used to also, sometimes I get nightmares too, but I get nightmares for different reasons, and they probably get nightmares for different reasons, But the thing is, there is something that is haunting us all as South Sudanese, because we are living hypocrisy. What is happening in South Sudan is the height of hypocrisy. Nobody wants to talk the truth, and when you talk the truth, there is this fear. I was asking someone the other day. I was asking, how is it that people who went to war, that confronted death, became so afraid of dying? It's one thing if you when the war happened and I packed my bag and I ran to Europe or to America, then obviously, it's understandable. Like I know my brother Tutkau doesn't want to die. He'd rather go and hang out with Bashir, and they come and they're the one attacking people. I understand, but people that brace, they brace these challenges,
and they were on fire.
They fought for 21 years only to turn into cowards. And they say, why are you doing this? We are doing this because you are not doing it. And it has to be done. Just simply like that. Somebody has to do it. So if you guys have no courage to do it, it's okay. We understand. We are not going to shame someone to do what they feel they cannot do. Right? But when we have mastered our own courage and we decide we are going to do this, the least you can do is just be neutral, rather than to come and oppose us when in your heart what we are doing is right.
Right, yes, correct.
You're supposed at the very least be neutral, because you don't want to be a victim. We understand. But that is the least you can do. Let us do our things, because our society must move forward. And by the way, if Biara was not here today to do what I'm doing, believe me, someone else will be here to do it. It's not being done because Biara is here. It's being done because it needs to be done. Because no society can move forward with hypocrisy. What can help us is the truth, and being true to the truth, right? And having that willingness to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. If you were yesterday criticizing others for mismanagement, for failures, then why is it so painful that you are criticized today for mismanagement and for failures, for dictatorship? You were the one doing it yesterday. Now it's being done again. That is the nature of things. You are supposed to learn from it, just like the way others learned from your criticism the other day. That's how we move forward. That's how we correct each other. Even I personally, when I made mistake, people criticize me. I don't go and attack the people who criticize me because I made a mistake. maybe sometime I may not want to hear the criticism, but over time I will reflect on it. And if I see truth in it, then I would have to submit to it. That is the logic of things. So we in the SPLM, and I'm really saying this to all the members of the SPLM out there, it's not only the liberators that were so-called liberators. There is no such a thing as a liberator. There's no person that is a liberator. All of us are the liberators. If you voted in that referendum,
Yes,
you helped to liberate this country. There's no one that can say that you did not play a role. You did, and we play different roles. God doesn't give people the same role. Everybody played their own role, but they are all important. So we all play our role, and they are all important. We have a voice. We are stakeholders. There's no people that are the ones supposed to be discussing the national affairs, and then we are just there to listen. We also have a right to be at the table. And even those who did not vote in the referendum, they have a right to be at the table because, South Sudan is their country. It affects them. And the future generation have a right to be involved and to debate us. And if they think we are doing things that are bad, they should correct us. Like what we are doing now, selling oil in advance, taking all these loans that are destroying all the resources that we have. And then future generation will be left with nothing. The oil will be depleted. Gold will be depleted. Water is being sold to Egypt. So then the country will be a desert. They have a right to object. They cannot be asked, where were you when we were shooting a bullet in a Winyabul? Okay, but you were in a Winyabul. I was not there. Must I have been there? What about those who were shooting bullet in Anyanya 1? Were you there?
Good question.
What about when Biarabet was fighting the British in 1920s? Were you there? That is how the world worked. People who come at that time, they're faced with the challenges that they face right there. You don't face the problem that were not there when you were not there to face them. You face the problem that you are able to deal with at your time. That is why everyone has their own time and why there is a time for everything. So during your time, yes, you shot your bullet in a Winyabul, but here we are talking, and we are talking right now. We don't need to shoot bullets. We only want to ask where we are going. So this is the issue, my brother.
Indeed. Thank you, Ustaz, Dr. Peter Biar. You put it correctly. As you said, Peter and Dwag Nyaba said that anti-intellectualism, it become a phobia, and it's a problem. And you describe it correctly, that when they see a light is shining, they try to put it under the table. But that's not how we can, make this country great or get out of the mess that we are in. Now, it seemed like the internal democracy problem, it started even far long time ago. But Dr. Peter Biar, it seemed like the SPLM leader, they still have a hangover. And they inherit that hangover, the monopoly within the SPLM party. Can they get over it? Can some of them have that heart? They can listen to their heart and say enough is enough. Can the leadership in the country try to get South Sudanese together on board? Now they are preparing for election and for this coming 2 years, and then there is no even consensus. There is no ijma watani even along. How do you see that coming along?
Look, I said before, everyone is traumatized, right? And sometimes when you're traumatized, you forget a sense of who you are. And when you forget who you are, that is really a problem. I think each person needs to look deep in their heart and try to find who they are. As I said before, there is no bad person. But when we allow bad things to go on for so long without being corrected, they begin to form a habit. And when you have formed a habit of doing bad deeds, you end up digging a hole, and until you make a decision that you are going to climb out of that hole, you will be in it. Leaders in South Sudan, they pretend that they forgive themselves. In fact, they use the word forgive. But I don't believe that I don't really believe that they forgive.
Mm.
They just decide to postpone their problem to another day until they come up again. But they don't really forgive with a sincere heart. Because when you forgive with a sincere heart, it changes you. It allows you a chance to go back to your true self. And your true self, is like that spirit within you. It's like the Indians, the Hindus, they call it the Brahman. This is that internal being within you that is also the same in each and every one. When we don't listen to that and it becomes dull, this is when basically we lose our humanity. So leaders in South Sudan, they have to be capable of true forgiveness. And they have to make sense of the history of the SPLM. Bad thing happened, okay. So you have to move on. And the problem is they cannot move on. They don't want to move on. But they have to move on if they want a better South Sudan. You see? So once the leaders allow themselves to do that, then they will be relevant. But if they just pretend and every decision that they make is just a calculation of being in power or how long to be in power and all of that, then we'll be in the same cycle. But my point is, we should look beyond them. Let us not focus on the leaders anymore. Let's look beyond them. You know what I mean by looking beyond them?
Yes.
What I mean by looking beyond them, you and I have the power to correct anything that is going on in South Sudan, with or without the leaders. If we, Junubin, begin talking to one another as a people, and even within the SPLM, even within all the organized forces, by the way, even the national security, there are a lot of patriots who want the South Sudan to move forward. We, as these people, if we organize ourselves, we talk among ourselves, we share ideas, build consensus on where we want to take the country, the leaders cannot stop us. Because the leaders come from among us. They are not us. They cannot make the community. So this is what I believe.
But how that's going to be possible, Dr. Peter Biar, and they are using violence again, who are open-minded and speaking up within the country.
1 second.
No problem.
My friend, when I speak up, for example, like when I spoke up in Juba and I was detained, the guy who detained me at the airport, it was a national security officer, right? Someone who is actually a good friend of mine. And then he took me to, when I was taken to Blue House, the first people that I met there are people that I know. Salva Kiir was never there. He didn't come to the airport to come and put me in a truck and take me to Blue House. It was this officer who is supposedly a friend of mine who decided to implement the order. If we are together and we really united, we want to move forward, then even when an order is given for me to be arrested, no one will implement it. When during World War I, for the World War I to stop, especially what was happening, the leaders were refusing to negotiate and the soldiers are shooting at each other. And World War One was very, very catastrophic because people were shooting each other at a very close range.
Mm.
And they had not developed body armor and all of those things. So you are shot and the bullet will enter you, and either you will die or you'll be wounded very badly. And the soldiers were watching, themselves killing themselves. Soldiers on this side, soldiers on that side.
Mm.
Until in 1918, the soldiers came up with a trick. When they're ordered to go fight, they will start now shooting, but instead of aiming at the soldier to shoot the soldier, they will just shoot on his side. They will just shoot at a tree or just they will not aim at the person. This actually started happening between the German and the French. So the French soldier, instead of shooting the German soldier, he will just shoot at a tree or shoot somewhere and not shoot the person. And then with the hope, the hope that the German soldier there will also not shoot him. And then the minute that happened, that's when the war was over. It took a month for politicians to discover this. That no one was because there was no casualties coming anymore.
Yeah. They were shooting on the air.
They were just, because they were like, why? Because he's looking at the soldier in front of him, and he's saying, he has his wife, he has his kids.
Mm-hmm.
He may be a good guy. His parents probably love him.
Yeah.
His relatives love him. Why should I kill him?
It's just being ordered to go and fight.
Yeah. Why? I don't want to kill you. And then the other guy is saying also, I don't want to kill you. And these politicians up there, they should find a solution to this problem.
Yes, correct.
That's the thing. And I think that one can happen. And that is why I said we don't need the leaders. That one we can do. If you are ordered as an unknown gunman to come and kill me, when you know very well in your heart that I have not done anything, I have not taken your chicken or anything, I have not killed anyone from your family or harm you, just because some political leader somewhere doesn't want me and has given you money. Why don't you eat your money quietly? And then, you shoot and you shoot on the side, you don't shoot at me. And the same thing with me. I'm not going to shoot at you because I don't have any problem with you. Once that happens, then we have overcome the politician. Then they no longer have power over the country, and they can no longer keep us in the crisis we are in. But we have to get every single person to that belief. Some people sometimes think taking someone's life is fun. And there are people that do it because they want to be notorious or to be known for notoriety.
Yes.
But there is no virtue in it. Especially when no one has done you any cause to provoke it. It's one thing to do it for self-defense. And I have no problem whatsoever being done for self-defense or doing it for self-defense. There's no problem. That is understandable. But to just go because someone else has told you to go and take someone else's life, or to go and detain someone, someone that is talking about something that could be beneficial for the whole nation. I feel like this is within our power to change. And, look, I criticize national security a lot. Mm-hmm. You are aware of that. But when I criticize them, it's not because they always done only bad things. I said before, there's no evil person. So even the people who are in national security, they are not evil. They are not evil people. And as institution, they have done some good work. If you see, like when the war broke out in 2013, they save a lot of people's lives, especially in Juba with the Juba massacres. They play a big role and they save people's lives. And the same thing, by the way, when many of the G10 were detained, there were some people that wanted to kill them, and national security protected them. And it was the same thing even with the Battle of J1 2016. It was the same thing. They've done some good work.
Mm.
When we criticize them, sometimes people feel like they have not done any good work. They have done some good work, but they have also done terrible work. They have suppressed people and create this fear, drive the nation towards psychopathy. How can you have a country that is run by psychopaths? A country that is entirely psychopathic? That is not possible. So you have to have a country in which there is critical thinking. That is what gives value to society. And that's what gives development to people. Even individual, I myself now, I'm almost 40 years old. I am, in terms of education, I've done my part. But I don't know everything. I don't consider myself, all knowing. I'm still looking for knowledge. And this knowledge sometimes is being challenged, arguing with people that don't have the same opinions with me. And through that, I am able to learn new insights into life. This is what national security have crushed in South Sudan. And we have allowed it because we as people, because of the greed that is endemic in human nature, it's not just only with South Sudanese people, but it's in every human nature, it is there. But we came from the bush wanting money. We came power hungry, position hungry. We want to be the better one. And we had so much envy, bitterness, unhealthy competition against each other. Not knowing that we can all work together. And at the end of the day, everything really depends on God. It's God that decides what each and every one of us are going to accomplish, or even when we are going to live or how long we live. So we have to change that. We have to have a country where people can have a debate, where things are questioned, where even the president is questioned, because president come from among us. We are a constitutional republic. President has to be criticized and has to be questioned. That is the only way we can move forward. And if we do that, Jonkur, and I think we are capable of doing that, because as I said to you before, the vices that are being used now to divide people is tribalism and regionalism. So now when I criticize the government, and you, Jonkur, also criticize the government, or you see some policy that is not good for the country, and you criticize it, and I criticize it, then and then someone from Nuer also criticize it, someone from Equatoria criticize it, and all the other South Sudanese. Then people will see it. But the problem is when now those who are vocal are from certain part, and then the others from other areas decide for whatever reason to be quiet. This is where now we allow that space to come. But if we do that, and you there in your area, your people will also be there, and then that way it will become difficult for anyone to just victimize people because people are talking. And by the way, Being cannot really be shut up. Even now in Juba, with all the national security has attempted, it's not a war that they can win. They have to move away from that and allow people to speak their mind. What they should be worried about is to implement their mandate. And the mandate is to collect information, analyze it, and advise relevant authorities on what should be done. We now in South Sudan, yes, we have a nation. But even this nation is shrinking every single day. The borders are getting smaller and smaller because Kenya is encroaching, Uganda is encroaching, everybody is encroaching. We are just fighting over the seat.
They are taking advantage of being weak.
And that has weakened us. So we need all of us to show leadership. And to show leadership is about how do we unite ourselves in a helpful way, not to repeat the same cycle. I hope now with Johnson Olin going to Juba, the idea is then not to then go and use him against someone else or to use one community against another community. This is what Jalava did. And where has it ended now? In Khartoum.
So bad.
They have used Darfur against everybody. What has happened? Ultimately, karma. Karma is, whatever you have done, always come back to haunt you. So we should always be asking God to forgive us and to change our ways so that we do what is better, so that we are able to take the country forward.
Dr. Biar, thank you. We don't have a lot much left, but it looked like I am going to ask you on the 50,000 project houses, because actually a lot of South Sudanese are interested how that can be paid. And actually it would help retire those generals who don't have a retirement plan. And that's why part of it, we have a lot of problem in our country. Everyone wanted to be in the government because there is no retirement plan. I want you to help our viewers, how that's going to be paid and how it would look like, actually, part of it. And then after that, I wanted to ask you, we're going to go to the second part, your apology to the president, and then we will talk about the election. So let us start with this. The 50,000 or 100,000, that can give, if you build 50,000 houses in each state, that mean 500,000 houses, and that actually will lift the burden of people just wanting to be government, like Dr. John Garang said, because not everybody can be in it every time. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Biat.
Look, the paying for that one is not even complicated at all, because one of my best friend from university, his family owned one of the largest real estate companies in America. When it was growing, when it was still not a very big, they come from the northern part of New Jersey. They're just outside of New York City. When it was growing, this company, what they would do is they would go to the bank. They'll buy land, right? They have land. Then they will get a loan from the bank. And then through that, they will organize like developers and all of this. And then they will build a bunch of houses, sometimes office space. And now when they build in advance, what they will do is they will raise the capital. There's a money they have secured from the bank. But now these houses that they're going to build, some of them, they want to rent them out. Some of them, they want to sell it. So say you build at the cost of $500,000. Then each house, obviously what I'm going to talk about in the case of South Sudan is much, much, much inexpensive. But I'm talking about like my friend in New Jersey. And then now when they sell it, maybe they sell the house like, let's say $800,000 or $1 million. So they like double their capital, right? So what they will do is as they design the projects now, they will invite in those who are interested in getting a house or in that area. And if you buy in early, then you get a certain price that is much cheaper than, let's say, you buy when the house is finished, right? And there is installments, right? You can pay like a certain percentage at a go. Correct. And there's a certain percentage that you will be paying on a monthly basis. So something like that. That was the way in which it was structured. Now, when they done this, they will then sell the houses. This is entirely private sector. No government will be involved, nothing. And then now you come and take a mortgage through your bank, whatever, you do it. Now, for the case like South Sudan, what we were going to do and how we're going to finance it was through two ways. First, if you try to think, for example, and at the time and even now, a lot of government officials are in hotels.
Correct.
This is the money that government is paying on a monthly basis and is not getting anything in return. So that is one. So one of the things you are going to do, and it's the same thing in the States, by the way.
And it's not creating any job anyway.
Yeah. Not creating any job. It's not. Sometimes the money doesn't even come on time. But then when it comes whoop, all at once. And then these people are rich. But what you can do is you can say, okay, if I take like a 5-year value of this money, okay, 5-year value of all this money that you spend accommodating government officials, and that could be like 20% of the total cost, of the total value of the cost that you need, right? You take that, and then you supplement the rest through private market loan, because you're going to do real construction. You're going to build houses. Not every one of them you're going to give away. There are some you will give to the veterans and widows, but there are some that you will give to those who are able to afford it, right? So then someone who is in the US like you now, Jonkur, if you want to buy a house here in the US, there is a certain down payment that you make.
Correct.
And every month you pay a certain amount.
3,000, 4,000.
For like 20, 30 years. That was the same concept that we were going to apply, right? So now we will attract our diaspora. So we'll do all these design of the houses, and then we'll create like a system where anybody from outside who want to get a house. And as I said before, the varies, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. And you're going to do like all the 10 states. So now one of the things you also want to do through this is social engineering of the population. So that instead of a will being just Nas from Madinga will living there, you have other South Sudanese from wherever who have bought houses.
You want to buy a house there to live there? Yeah, correct.
Exactly. So if you want to get a house in Wow, you can buy. You can, so it will be market based, and even the cost and the value is not. It's on average, it's going to be like $50,000, $40,000 housing, because it's going to be low cost. And then what you do, because there is such a huge demand, you want to build some industries and some companies that will remain in South Sudan for a long run, right? So like cement, you're not going to build 500,000 homes through a cement that you buy from a foreign country.
No.
You might just as well attract a large company, since you have raw materials inside South Sudan, and you come and invest in a cement factory, right? So that the cement is produced right there. The same thing with timber. You're not going to be buying, because we have the forest, by the way, some of the great mahogany trees in the world. Now they're being destroyed with charcoal, which is weird.
Without replantation.
Right. But this is the thing that we can adjust, right? So you lay these industries, and then you will be building skills, right? Because all these youth need to be now working as masons. They'll be building bricks. They will be doing what? And then, so this is going to create huge employment. But what you will do is, you will not just fund it from the budget alone, because then there will be so much corruption, there will be so much inefficiency. So you want to do this as a PPP, right? It's a public-private partnership. So through the government budget, you will not go and touch any other money. You take purely, let's say, the money that is for the hotel for the next 5 years. And then for government accommodation, you take a bit of that. And you can even put like a small percentage of it from a monthly outflow of the oil. You put it into the account, and then from this money now, you raise capital. So all these people in the diaspora that want to buy into a house, you're not going to ask them immediately. You get a bank, you get there's a lot of different logistics that you have to coordinate.
Correct.
You have to bring the financiers, you have to bring logistical companies, you have to bring those who are going to do the cements and all of these things, right? When you put it together, you do the surveying, because you're going to do like proper urban planning. This is why government is very important, right? So government will also be coordinating this, because this is very important. And you want to do it happening with like a phase plan, right? When are you going to do this? Where are you going to start? Which part of the country, where you move to next? This is how you will do it. And now when and you build the roads, because the government, so then your normal road contracts, you will give them out. So there will be building of roads in all these places that is happening simultaneously. And then, because this is such a major urban planning,
yes,
you bring in major organizations like the World Bank, to help you to build major roads, right? World Bank can give you a grant through IDA. There is what is called International Development Assistance, IDA programs. South Sudan easily qualify. The reason why South Sudan is not benefiting now is because of the problem with the systems, especially corruption, mismanagement, especially in the fiduciary sector. This one can be fixed if there is a real plan and there is agreement that we are going to have a new beginning, Ajama, and let's do things better. This can be done, right? And then now when you reach a certain level, now you invite in the diaspora. And you start first with South Sudanese. You invite the diaspora. It's South Sudanese people. You invest, right? And then later on, after you capture that market, then you can open it to the foreigners. I saw this in Dubai with the way they were building Dubai. When they were building Dubai, 2006, I was studying in Middle East for that 1 year. They were building the Palm. There is a part of Dubai called the Palm. There's a lot of houses there. It's an artificial island. They made it artificial island and they built it up. And this is exactly the model they use. The houses that were built on the Palm, right now they're worth $20 million, $30 million. But the Emiratis, when they were given the chance to buy in first, they were buying in like $500,000.
Wow.
Right? And this is the thing, because once you do, because what you want to do is you want your citizens to also benefit by investing their money, right? Because you want them, you want their capital to grow in a very fast way. And I do believe, by the way, South Sudan can have one of the highest rates of return on capital invested in the world. Because the development level is very low. So if you bring any capital there, the argument I want to make is, if you bring any capital there in South Sudan, whereas in some places you can get 10, 20% a year, in South Sudan, there is a possibility your capital can even have 100% return a year, which means within a very short time, we can multiply the income levels of our people 5-fold, 5 times from where they were within just maybe 5 to 10 years. And that can like triple the GDP. So these are the things that we are talking about, my brother Jankor. Is a very important plan.
Good setting.
You need to move to productivity. You need to build skills, and you need to be able to organize. First begin developing sectors that can replace imports. Right? If you see, like, we are buying a lot of these things from outside. Some of these we can even do in our own country. Let's say Maijun. Why are we buying Maijun from Bara? It's not that complicated. You need to do a deal with a company you bring, and you eliminate Maijun. Even Coca-Cola, you can bring him to go and do it in Juba. Right? Yeah. And instead of dollars, you need dollar action to buy Maijun. You can just do it internally. So, Dumuria, even in the 70s, they used to do this in Anzara. So these things are things that can be done, but you need to solve the problem of housing, because, by the way, most of our money is what is developing Kenya and Uganda. Because more people are there.
Now their GDP is 109 billion. This is from South Sudan. Before we gain independence, Kenyan GDP like around $37 billion. Like, has grown like 3 times.
Yes.
Because of the money of South Sudan. The same thing Uganda. Uganda was like 27. Now we are talking about 40 billion or $50 billion.
And the sad part, my brother, during the same time, the GDP of South Sudan is shrinking.
Yes.
Going down. You see? That is really where the tragedy is. And we need to reverse this. We don't have any other solution. But one of the things, you want those who are living in Nairobi to come and live in Yei, to live in Wow, to live in Torit. Now the people who send them money, that money goes directly to South Sudan. The school they put their kids is in South Sudan. The school fees that they pay, they're paying them to South Sudan.
We can bring the teachers, if we are obsessed with the teachers from Kenya, we can build an apartment for them. They can stay here. Our kid can be taught in South Sudan.
And that can be done. And all it requires, my brother, is for us to provide security. But security, we are not going to provide it by guns. We are going to provide it by talking to the heart of our people, letting them know that we are serious, that we mean well for them, and we are going to take this country forward. We are in solidarity with them. And creating an environment where people can forgive each other, spirit of forgiveness. This is the second point you asked me.
Thank you. Before I go to my next two questions. Why South Sudan is not having independent airspace? Why are we still dependent on Khartoum?
Because we never prioritized it. You see, this is the problem. We never thought it was important because, as I was telling you, everything was being seen from the angle of protecting the power for the president. This is how, people around him define that, and it's very sad. It's very sad. So whatever that was not directly that, it was seen as secondary. So Khartoum has been making so much money off this control of the airspace because there are there's fees that are paid, and because we don't control our own airspace, these fees have been going to Khartoum. We have not been benefiting much out of that. Not to mention the issue of security. What does this mean for a sovereign state to allow your number one? This is our number one detractor.
Yes,
Khartoum always trying to create internal problems for us to destabilize. It's destabilizer, to be the one in charge of our own air. It was because it was never prioritized, and it came up from the very beginning. Before independence and immediately after independence, it was raised many times, but there was never a response from it. So I think now the problems of Khartoum have finally forced people to do it, because now people have no choice. It has to be done. But this is sometimes how things are done in South Sudan. Is when necessity made them difficult to ignore anymore.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. Now we are moved to next another segment. Dr. Biar, many South Sudanese see you as a role model. They see you as a voice of the voiceless. What you have been doing, shedding the light on the right and talking about the important thing that needed to be done in the country. You've been advocates, a political leader. They look into you, as someone that their voices. 2 weeks ago, a week and a half, you did issue apology to President Salva Kiir. And actually, many people, many South Sudanese, did not like this. They felt like you are apologizing for opposing the government. I don't know if they read the letter correctly, to understand what part that you are apologizing. So I want you to talk to the people. What your apology mean exactly? And why did you apologize to President Kiir?
Well, thank you, Jonker, for bringing that up. Let me clarify from the very beginning. I have never apologized for criticizing the government. And I don't think there's no one that has ever even asked me to apologize for criticizing the government. That one is my natural right. As I was saying before, it's not only me who is doing this, it's something that has been done. It is the example that we are following. I gave the example of our President Salva Kiir when he criticized John Grant. And we remember very well the Rumbek meeting, minutes of it that were later on released by the SPLM. We have them. So this is not a new thing. And we criticize not because we don't like. And I wanted to clarify that one from the very beginning. The reason why I criticize SPLM is not because I don't like President Salva Kiir. In fact, I made it clear when I did an interview with the Lake State media last week. I said that President Salva is one of the people that I'm quite proud of because when the SPLM was confused and people were turning against Garang, he remained loyal and he did everything within his power to help Garang lead the people of South Sudan. And it was not easy. There was a lot of people that were pushing him to abandon Garang. But because of his own commitment to the ideals for which they were fighting for, he remained steadfast in supporting Garang. So I have never had any personal problem. What I have done is not to apologize for criticizing the government that he leads or the SPLM, is for attacking him personally. That is what I most regret. And I regret this, and as I mentioned in my letter, because he's my elder. And he's also, not very important to mention, he's the leader of our country, he's the symbol of our nation. He is the president of the Republic of South Sudan. And we also know the personal role that he played in creating South Sudan, of which we are forever grateful to him. And those like him across our country who paid that enormous sacrifice. They endure a lot of problems. And they suffered so that South Sudan can be a free country. But as I also said, he's my elder and he's my uncle. And because of that, I apologize. This was never to apologize because I criticized his government, but because there was one interview that I did in which I attacked his person. And that interview, it was a huge mistake on my behalf. I did it because of the anger that was driving me at the time and the bitterness that was driving me as a result of that anger. And of course, sometime in the midst of anger, we end up inflicting wound. And after we sit down and reflect, we can come and find where we have gone wrong. It did not take me a year to realize that I was wrong. I realized much earlier that I was wrong in that regard. But my pride was there. And sort of what you are saying now, what other South Sudanese are saying, why should I be the one to apologize? I was someone who was punched, and I was just responding with a punch, because I had been detained for 2 years. I had serious struggle. I still have those struggles, some of those struggles up to today. So there was a part of me that was saying, well, even if I might have committed a wrong, at least I was wrong first. So that logic was there. But really what was the driving it was also the pride, because for us, people will say, if you know why you are wrong, then why did you do it? Like there are some people, I've seen some articles that have been written, says my apology, people questioning. And I think the only response I can give there is that, of course, I'm a human being. And it should not be a surprise that I'm capable of making a mistake. I never said that I was a god. I'm a human being. And as a human being, I can be driven by human passion, of which anger is one of them. And of course, the source of my anger is something that is well known and is very clear to whoever that want to know it in depth. So that is the thing I have done. Now, why did I do it? You deserve it. Because once I'm convinced that I am wrong, the question was, how am I going to overcome my pride? But I'm glad that I did, so that I can give him his apology, because I am a person who believes on personal accountability, and I should be held accountable by my action. If I have committed a mistake and I have been made aware that what I have done was wrong, I will apologize for it without any hesitation whatsoever. So that is what I have done. I have given that. Also, I did it also because I believe that I am healing. I'm letting go of that bitterness, because I reach a conclusion in my life that I cannot allow national security to alter my character forever. I cannot allow anyone to change who I am, because this is why I say before, we all need to look and reflect on who we are as individuals. Me, I never consider myself to be a better person. I'm not a better person by my nature. Also, I'm not a person that hold on to grudges. I don't hold on to feuds. Yes, I may fight if you get me into a situation, I may fight. but I don't know how to hold on to grudges so that I'm always thinking about that grudge. And I felt that, this situation and the way that I was quite bitter was beginning to affect my character. And I did not want to give national security such a power. I am a forgiving person. And holding on to all of those things was making me demonize my enemies in my head. I no longer saw them as individuals. I see them as, incarnation of evil. And when we do that, we begin to lose each other. We are no longer really speaking to one another. So I had to remind them that, these are human beings. And they are human beings. President Salva is a father, he's a grandfather, he's an uncle. He's loved by people in his family. And the same thing with General Kolakur. He's a father, he's a grandfather. They have people they love and people that love them. They're human beings. And they have done some good work for our country too. President Salva, he played a big role for our country to be independent. And I recognize that. I can never take that thing away from him. And no matter how much I may be bitter with him, I have to recognize him and give him his due. And the same thing with Jorola Kolokor. With national security, they have done some good work. As I mentioned to you before, with 2013 crisis, they play a very big role. And also in preventing some lootings and I also know it's not easy to be in those positions, to be the head of intelligence, especially in a country that is divided, country that is coming through history of conflict, country where people have become so expert at cooking conspiracies of different kind. It's not easy to be the head of intelligence. They require a lot of dedication and a lot of thinking. And we, of course, as I said before, we are all human beings and we are capable of mistakes. So they may also be capable of making mistakes, just the same way that I personally is also capable of making mistakes. So instead of demonizing them in my head, I had to see them as human beings. As human beings, that we have had human arguments. And we're human beings, we are capable of solving our problems. Sometimes we fight and then sometimes we solve them. And none of this was ever personal. We didn't have, we had nothing at all at a personal level. Personal respect is there 100%. I'm much younger than them. But of course, our differences was on the national issues. So I wanted to take the issue back to where the differences are. The differences are never personal. And the country we are trying to build is not a country that will exclude Salva Kiir or will exclude Okolokur or exclude anyone from the national security or from anyone in the government of South Sudan. It's a country for all of us. They have a role to play, and I have also a role to play. And I have to also recognize that they are there. Just like the story I was telling you about the World War I, World War II veteran, the French. The soldiers were not shooting each other. They were shooting at the trees and not shooting each other because they see each other, they exist. And there is no reason to kill one another. So it's the same thing. I see them, they exist. I see that they are trying. Not everything that they're trying to do in the country is evil. We should always remember that. People are trying in their own ways. So I do recognize that their heart is not filled completely with evil or darkness. There are ways in which maybe they're trying to do things in the right way, but maybe the approaches that they're using are not working. So what I'm most interested in is the conversation to go back to what is it that we want to achieve when that bullet was fired in 1983, that struggle was launched. We have all now been brought into this struggle. It has been going on for 40 years. Where are we going? How can we go better than where we are going? And how can we think in a way that this country can move forward? How do we build our nation up? Let us have a real dialogue. If we know where the mistakes are, Let's think about a way to correct them. And and if there are mistakes happening, let's point them out. This is a challenge that I'm making to every patriot. Let us not leave this discussion to only a few individuals. It's for all of us, and we should not see it as just for power. Many people, when 2004, when President Salva was raising the issues against John Garang, many people who were supporting John Garang, they did not just say that Salva want to take your leadership. That was not the thing. It was that Comrade Salva is unhappy, and there are issues that he's raising that you, as a leader, need to listen to. That's what many of us told John Garang. And I think Salva Kiir also need to be reminded sometime and told the same thing, that it's not because people hate you, and then our people try to make things tribal, regional, is because it's from Bor and Barghazal. No. When I'm upset with national security, that it has killed my friends, none of my friends who have been killed is from Bor. Luala Akon, who was killed while we were in Blue House, is from Awil. Carbino, well, you all know very well, is from Tony. Abraham Ajak and Dao Makoy, they're from Rumbek, the Hagar. None of them is a Bor person to come and say this is a Bor and Barghazal. There's no such a thing. Is where we are going, where the revolution is supposed to be taken. Instead of turning against his own children, the revolution is supposed to be empowering them. Why is it that is those who are killing South Sudanese that are welcome with red carpet? And like today, it's all warlords that are all over Juba. Why is that the future we want? Is that what we fought for, so that we can drive away our own, so that we can welcome the warlords? So I amend this apology to the president with my sincere heart. Now, what I don't know whether he will accept or not. That will be a different issue. Whether it has reached him, I don't know. I cannot confirm for details because I've not heard anything since then. But that was never really the point. It was not so that he can hear it and give me a response. It would be wonderful. But ultimately, I know that I was wrong to attack him personally. And I had to apologize, which I have done. But on the national issues, on the political issues, we must have a debate, because the South Sudan we have now is not the South Sudan that we want. And we have to find a way to get to the South Sudan we want, without a question. So that is what we are going to do, my brother.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. The point that you brought up, actually, that was going to be my next question. We know Edward Lino Abiy was one prominent member of the SPLM, SPLA, a person that used to go to Western capitals giving lectures to get funded for the SPLM. Unfortunately, he has disagreement with President Kiir, and simply because he did not say anything even personally. He said, this country will fail under leadership of President Salva Kiir, and people of South Sudan are going to turn against themselves because he's lacking that. Edward Lino died holding Ugandan passport. He hasn't come to South Sudan at all. That tell there is no forgiveness from there. So that's why I'm asking you a question. Is he really going to forgive you, Dr. Peter Biar? Because you did this in a good faith, and we know that. You feel like he's an elder and you shouldn't say what you have said. Because now, since you apologize, we haven't heard anything from J1. But when you made a comment, next day, we heard Atanywa Gatany and others, press secretary, they were speaking about it. But now it's like nothing happened. So what does that mean? It mean like bitterness continue? Like what happened to Edward Lino? Or what is it? I'm sorry to bring you back. You already spoken about this more, actually.
Look, I don't know the details of what happened with Edward Lino and the president. I don't know. It could have happened the way you are saying, but it may not be the full story, So I don't know. These kind of things, sometimes it takes a bit of digging to really know what has happened. And any kind of move like this always required to. It requires forgiveness on both sides. Forgiveness. So I don't know whether Edward had forgiven the president or the president had forgiven him on what. I don't know. But here is what I do know. From what I have heard, Taban, I don't know the details. I don't know the president that well. But from the stories that I've heard, is that he's supposedly a man of peace and a forgiving man. When Garang died, that was one of the virtues of him that people talk a lot about. And we saw it later on with the integration of the Polino Matip and all the other groups that had rebelled. President let them go, and then he integrated them in. And obviously, we have seen it with React several times, and so many other warlords. Olon just arrived today, and in 2020, for the entire year, Olon refused to come to Juba, even when React nominated him to be governor of Upper Nile. He refused to come. And the reason why he refused was that he was afraid. He was saying that he was afraid of his security in Juba, that he might be attacked. But here he is coming today. So I don't know. So I cannot say, the president will or will not forgive. That one I do not know. But I also, forgiveness is a process. It's just the same way for me to come to the. Junkur, are you able to hear me? I don't know.
I hear you now.
Yeah. Forgiveness is a process. Just for me to come to the conclusion that I came and apologize for what I did, it took me some time. It took me a year, and I think also to accept an apology, it can also take time. So I'm not in a hurry, and obviously the president should not feel like under pressure in any way. The most important thing that is for him to know that I have given my sincere apology. But as whether this will be responded or why it's not responded, I'm not really into that kind of a speculation. But I know it takes time, and also he's busy, right? He's supposed to be dealing with the situation in Sudan. I understand that he has been delegated by IGAD together with President of Kenya and the President of Djibouti to help look at finding solution in Sudan. As you know very well, the problem in Sudan is really the major, it would become a major crisis for South Sudan. So he's quite taken up with that, talking to the different sides to ensure that there is a ceasefire. And Olen is coming to Juba. So, give him time. And there's a lot of crisis. People are being evacuated. There's also a question, these people evacuated, what are they going to eat? Then there is also the issue of our own implementation of the peace agreement. There are issues in Jonglei State, as you've seen, and there has also been a change in the office of the president in the recent days with a new executive director coming in. So all of this, they may delay response. So for me, I am hopeful. I am hopeful that the president will forgive because I have given him a sincere apology, and there is nothing beyond that I can do. And if there is anything beyond that, I'm interested to know. But I think the best that I could do is to give my apology and to hope that he will forgive. So I will remain in that state of hopefulness and wait until I have been proven otherwise.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. Now, let's talk about election. The government has made an extension, which is many South Sudanese have denounced it. Another 24 months. Peace agreement was not implemented because we're supposed to have an election after the interim period, 6 months prior, before the end of the interim period. Now, There is no permanent constitution. Okay. No census, a new census in the country. And now the government said there will be election on December of 24. I want you to weigh in. How relevant is that?
Look, I've been advocating for election for quite some time. And I think truly the elections are needed. We cannot allow a country to descend to the level that it has descended. Right now, the only way someone can participate in the government is by first rebelling and attacking Junubin. And then after that, you are accommodated and you are put into government. We have to change that. People have to get to position of power because they have been elected by the people, not because they are killing Junubin. So in my opinion, there is no other way to change that except through the elections. So we have to do the election. But I agree with you. There are certain requirements that need to be done. Constitution need to be done. Civic space in the country need to be opened up so that people are truly free and are able to campaign and they're able to share the vision of the country with the people of South Sudan. That is without a question. Is something that need to be done. So the same thing with like Dustur, the constitution you did. It need to be done. Even census, because you saw the estimates that were released a few weeks ago, which were quite problematic in so many ways. So we need to do those things without any delay, without any further delay. We need to have a huge role for the UN in the election. And it's one thing that we as people of South Sudan need to get our voices heard on. We cannot have election that will be done by the government, especially a government that is divided, a government where people are trying to stress each other, a government in which people are not really looking for genuine compromises or to find a genuine peace. If you let that government run the elections, then we will go back to a situation of war. You have to have a role for the United Nations. Why do we have UN in the country? What is its purpose? They have to help with things like election. Let them run the election so that the result that will be announced will be acceptable to everybody. In my opinion, that need to happen. But the National Electoral Commission can now work hand in hand with the UN in making the elections possible, instead of it working alone. I don't think it has the capacity to do it alone. And I don't think international community is going to provide money for elections that they know will be rigged. And if there is no intention to rig the elections, why not let the UN do it? So this is what we are going to insist on. And there have to be inclusive elections. You cannot have the SPLM campaigning on its own, like what is happening now. It's SPLM that is the only one campaigning. It's like dancing in the dance by yourself, and no one is dancing with you. That is quite a misplaced. There should be others in the field. You cannot play in a sport and win a championship if you are the only competitor. There is someone that you must compete against so that you can be crowned a champion. And SPLM has to open up the political space. This is why where we come back to where we started. We're looking at 40 years of the SPLM history, what the SPLM went to struggle against and what it has become. And the problem is SPLM has become what it was fighting against. And the only way the SPLM can find its genuine self is through this democratic election, so that there is real, genuine competition of ideas, not based on some ethnic political alignment, but really based on what will take the people of South Sudan forward. I think that will be something great for the nation. Now, whether this can be done between now and December 2024, I don't know. I doubt. And this is what we were asking last year, my brother Jonkor, when they did the extension, say they need another 2 years. We asked a question: what is it that you are going to do in these 2 years that was not possible to be done in the last 3 years?
Or in the last 8
and then they were responding, well, this time there will be no extension. And everybody has said it. This time, no extension, no extension. Okay, if no extension, why are you not making progress on the critical things that need to be done for this election to become a reality? Why are you putting cart before the horse? You have SPLM already campaigning, yet there is no constitution. There is no National Electoral Act has not been amended. National Election Commission has not been reconstituted. They are even being kicked out of the offices because the rent has not been paid. How is it? How do you convince people now that you are going to do the election on time? Not to mention the situation with refugees. Now, because of the situation in Sudan, okay, people have been forced to return back. But the question is, even now with these people return, if there is really a plan on how to receive them and integrate them into the society, because I'm afraid we are going to have a serious hunger crisis, especially in the northern part of the country.
Yes.
In northern Barghazal, in Unity State, in Upper Nile, Warab, all these places will be affected. And if we just wait until the crisis hit, it will be a disaster. The reason why we fought to have a government is so that we can have planning, so that we can do things in advance before they become a reality. So I hope this issue of election, people are thinking about it and laying the foundation so that we don't go back to war. The president has made that promise so many times. And just like so many other promises of his, they are yet to be fulfilled. But the sad part is you don't see the effort, genuine effort, to make it happen. And up to now, I have not seen anything to convince me that the election will really happen in 2024. It's just a talk. But where is the action? I don't see it. Where is the budget? It requires its own budget. I just see the cabinet now has passed a supplementary budget of $3 million to deploy the unit. Okay, you deploy them, and then after that, what are they going to eat? It's only $3 million that is being provided. Where are their logistics? Where are their food? These things are missing. So, and they have not really been trained well. We know very well what happened with these forces. The government was complaining last time, was trying to use them as a tool to leverage for the removal of the arm embargo, that they have no guns. And yet everybody knows the country is aflush with guns, So the question now is there going to be a genuine will on the side of the leadership to try to really address the problem? And everything we have seen in the past, it was a contradiction of everything. But what we need to do now is us making sure our voices are heard, talking to one another. And since the government has shown over and over again, I think actually what is going to happen, they will delay the election again. But I think each time that they delay the election, we strengthen our argument that this government has no capacity and is completely not capable of doing election. Therefore, it needs the United Nations with the African Union to come in and to organize the election. Let everyone compete. The president believes that he is still popular, like he's made to believe, and he's very popular in the country and he can win. Let him run. But let the people of South Sudan also have another option, other alternatives. And I think even election that someone think that they may rig will turn out to be very different. Because ultimately, no one can undo what God has planned. Salva Kiir was a Joshua. He was there to help us to cross to the promised land so that we, as people of South Sudan, shall be able to rule ourselves. He was not appointed to us to be a king. Never was he appointed to be a king. He was a Joshua. When Archbishop Morona prayed for him at the All Saints Cathedral in 2005, that was it. And that was the message that God bless him to lead the people of South Sudan. And he has done his job very well. He has helped the people of South Sudan to cross to the promised land. I think with these elections, there will be an opportunity to thank him as president for the job that he has done, and to also offer him a very good package for his retirement so that he goes home knowing that he has served his nation. He has done great work. And we will always thank him. But now we are going to have a new beginning. We're going to begin correcting the mistakes so that the SPLM deliver in what it promises to the people of South Sudan.
Thank you, Dr. Biar. Talking about the competition and an alternative on that regard. Are you a candidate for the election? Is Peter Biar going to run for the president?
Well, we have to make the elections happen first, my brother Jonker. The elections are not yet there. And we are getting ahead of ourselves. This is what happened in 2013.
I mean, in case if
but you see, in 2013, everybody declared to run, and they have not even done the constitution of the SPLM. They have not even done the code of conduct, and then everybody was running. And then now you all declare yourself, and then now you have to come back and sit down together to write the constitution. How is that going to work now? So for us, look. For me, it's not even about the issue of leadership. I'm happy to serve whatever I am most able to help the people of South Sudan. And even outside of the government, I am capable of doing my level best in whatever way that I can. But what really matters here is that the country deserves to move forward. It has been held hostage for so long, and people of South Sudan are tired. People of South Sudan, they have been traumatized. If you go into their bodies, there is so much trauma in that body. It has been mutilated, it has been tortured, it has been starved, it has been subjected to so much evil. That body is traumatized. And body was not meant for suffering. Body is the temple of God, is the temple of the spirit that is within all of us. And when it's subjected to unnecessary suffering, it traumatizes the spirit that is trapped within it. So we have to finally show our people some joy, some respite, show them that life can be beautiful. And I think that time is coming. It doesn't have to be done by Peter Biar. There are so many South Sudanese people that are capable of doing it. But it has to be done. And there is time for everything. There's time for sun to rise and a time for it to set in the evening. And the same thing with the leadership. Every leadership, there is a specific time period in which it came into existence. In the case of President Salva, from the day that John Grant crashed, that's the day that the sun of his leadership rise. But we all know that now it is setting. And when is the exact date that it will come to an end? We don't know. What you and I would want to do is to make sure the transition is smooth and that it is peaceful, it is honorable, and it is dignified. Because that is the only way that the life that will come afterwards will also be honorable and will also be dignified. We want the president to be sure that he will have an enjoyable retirement. And everyone that has worked in South Sudan, everyone that has been part of the SPLM system from 1983 to today, and with all the institutions the SPLM has transformed into, SPLM as a political party, GOS, army, national security, police, all of them, regardless of whatever little shortcomings, they have done their best. They have served honorably, But now, moving forward, we will stop doing the bad things. We have to begin doubling down on doing the good things so that going forward, these institutions are embraced by Junubin as the institutions because they will be there after we are all gone. And we want our legacy to continue with them. But if we are too greedy and we don't consider the nation, then we are asking for what is happening in Khartoum now to happen in Juba over and over and over again. And we know very well now, the children of Mahdi, the Mergenis, they are nowhere in Khartoum. There are new people who are bombing Khartoum.
Yes.
And every one of us, we have kids. We have a generation that we want to continue. So let's also think about them, that the world is not going to end with us. It will also continue. And our life will continue through those kids. So when we treat others because we are in power, let's also think that sometime power may change and others will come into position of power. But for me, this is not about personal ambition. It's about making sure the South Sudanese people are able to vote, and whoever they elect is who is going to govern them. When the time comes, we will see at what option we have. All I know is that we cannot be forced to have only two options, to have Salva Kiir and Riek. Those options, we have said as people of South Sudan, we are tired of them. So there have to be other options. And I believe there will be other options. And if there are no other options, then we will have to present other options.
Phenomenal. Dr. Peter Biar, I really appreciate you for coming and talking here on Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. Until then, I really appreciate you. Thank you. And have the rest of your day.
Wonderful. Have a great day, Jonko. It has been really a privilege and a pleasure to appear with you. Let me wish every South Sudanese person out there a happy May 16th. This is our legacy, all of us. It does not belong to people who are in the SPLM party alone.
Mm-hmm.
It belongs to all the people of South Sudan who fought to create their own nation. Thank you for your resilience and continue hoping, because this country will never fail you. This country is blessed, filled with so much promises, and we are going to realize them. And the pain that we have felt will be turned into joy. May God bless you. May God sustain you in hope. May God sustain you in faith until we are able to see His salvation through experiences of our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And one more time, thank you to our audience who have stayed here and listened to all this. I will leave you with the statement, the word, with our late hero, Dr. John Garang Mabior. Thank you.
A new phase of transforming the guns and the bullets, that is military power, transforming military power into political power, and using the political power to achieve socio-economic development rapidly, because there is no meaning of revolution unless it makes our people happy, unless the masses of our people, as a result, become prosperous. They go ahead, they advance, they get shelter, they get food, they get clean drinking water, they get education, they get health services. Unless we provide this to our people, unless the revolution provides this to our people, then the people would prefer a government of the NIF that provides salt to a government of the SPLA that does not provide salt. This is simple arithmetic. If the SPLA cannot deliver anything, and we just shout revolution, and the cattle of the people are not vaccinated, their children are not vaccinated, there is nothing to eat. There are no basic necessities of life. Mafi gumaish besum, mafi ibra, mafi mus. The barest minimum of things are not available. Then the people will drive us into the sea. Even though there is no sea here, they will find a sea to drive us. Because we have no other choice.
Happy May 16th.
See, the old Sudan